court itself. That is what they have told us. Now, we expect that they would be courageous enough to say that because we allowed a person who was not eligible in 2021, we are going further to say that that election in which he participated was a nullity. And as such, we'll be calling for a fresh election. I don't know whether it is per incuriam that they didn't get to that point, whether it was by mistake that they didn't get to that point, or by design, but instead what has been said, or what has been received now, is that he was eligible in 2021, he won't be eligible in 2026. He was eligible because we said so, he won't be eligible because we're saying so. What about the law that you interpreted consistently? What about that election which he took part in? If you had told us that he was not eligible as a party, perhaps we could have found a different candidate who would have contested those elections and probably won. Who knows? Maybe if he didn't participate, maybe Fred Membe could have won. Maybe that support that he was holding on to, this ineligible person was holding on to, had their eyes on Fred Membe. Maybe they wanted Sean Tembo. It means that the whole election was probably tainted. And the law is that where there is a person who's not qualified, who takes part in an election, that election should be cancelled. Did they do that? No, they didn't. So what is this thing of saying in the interest of justice, he's not eligible? What about the injustice that you occasioned? What are you doing to cure that injustice? What are you doing to cure that illegality? So the court has to go beyond without looking at faces. It is not their business to look at what it is going to cost. Remember what it did, what the same Constitutional Court did in the issue of the ministers who had stayed on in office after the dissolution of Parliament by way of misinterpreting the Constitution. They said, because you stayed on, and you should not have stayed on, you have to pay back everything that you earned during that period. All the allowances you earned, you have to pay back. And they paid back. What was different about this case? What was different about this case? See, the good part is, I like the magnanimity of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. And according to him, he said, listen, they have arrived at this decision. I respect that decision, but that does not mean that I agree with it. It is flawed in material particulars, but we need to protect this institution. I signed this constitution to create that court, to create the Constitutional Court. I signed that, and we created that Constitutional Court for purposes of protecting our Constitution. He is not of the view that they have protected the Constitution, but he's of the view that perhaps we need to protect the courts. We need to protect the judiciary. If they are going to go down, let them go down by their own deeds or misdeeds. And if this is a misdeed, history will come back to haunt them. Because history has a tendency of coming back and doing or undoing the wrongs that were done. It is not a judgment that is going to live for a long time. Because they have shown us that it is possible that you can keep knocking on the same door and you get the same result 4 times. You keep knocking on the same door, who knows, you may get a different result the 5th time. That is new jurisprudence that has been introduced in our country. And we think it ought not be so. We think that matters should be dealt with finality. Perhaps those ministers that served should be able to go back and say, listen, you made us pay in that case. but we think we offered a service to this country and we're deserving of those allowances. You never heard us on this matter. So you arrived at your decision by mistake. They've opened it up. Anyone can go back. Anyone can give a reason as to why they have given, they've arrived at a decision by supposedly a mistake. Because everything that they said is not new in this matter. It is things that were dealt with previously. There are things that they did not agree with, but this time around they've changed and said, this is the position that we have taken. But the president is not bitter, the former president is not bitter. We are not bitter at all, because we took an argument that was based on the law. We believe in our argument. The court has decided. We respect that decision, though we don't agree with that decision. And for that reason, Plan B has kicked in.
Before we come to Plan B,
yes.
You did mention that the 2021 election then is a nullity because a person who was not eligible was allowed to stand in a particular election. The judgment, however, says that in 2021, President Edgar Lungu was eligible because that's what the court had decided before that particular election.
Yes.
So now, why do you think it was a nullity when the Constitutional Court said that no, for now he's eligible, and they have since relooked at that particular decision and realized that they made it, I want that word, paying carium.
Okay.
And they have come back to it, and they've made the right decision now.
Okay. I've explained to you why they should not have gone to the length of saying they arrived at that decision paying carrier. Because President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was not allowed to fully address that particular position of the matter having been arrived at paying carrier. I told you how that at first we objected and they agreed with us and expunged that from the record. They removed it from the record that we will not argue this issue of the matter having been arrived at paying carrier. You will notice even from the record itself that Judge Msaluke asked my colleague Masho Mjende, the Solicitor General, what he thought about the fact that the decision or the prayer that the matter or the decision was arrived at paying curiam had not been pleaded in their documents. He gave a position, and having given a position, we expected that we will be allowed to also address the court on that particular position. We rose up to say we would like to be heard on that question that the court had raised. What did the court say? No, we don't want to hear you on that position. I asked that, I wanted an answer, and I've gotten my answer. So having gotten that answer, shouldn't President Edgar Chagwa Lungu not have been heard on whether or not a matter that has not been pleaded should be included? Shouldn't he have been heard? The record is there. Anyone can go there and see what is on the record. So that is the first issue. And for them to say that, okay, we allowed him, he was eligible in 2021 because there was a judgment that says he's eligible. And they've told us that he was wrong, or they were wrong to have allowed him. That's what they have told us. Now, the fact that you have allowed him to participate, what is the effect on the election? Does that make an election free and fair when you allow an ineligible person to participate? The answer is no. That's why we're saying they should not have skated around that particular issue. They should have said the consequence of us saying that he participated, though not eligible, means that the election was tainted. The election being tainted means that we have to nullify the election. Because, we say so because they clothe themselves with the jurisdiction to deal with an issue of nominations. When the law, according to Article 52, is that you can only deal with the question of nomination within 7 days after the filing in of nominations, And once someone files in that petition, you have to deal with it in the shortest possible time, meaning that nothing goes on, the election won't go on until there is a determination of that particular issue. Because you want, by the time the election is going on, all the persons that are on the ballot are qualified. The moment there's one who's not qualified, the election is not free and fair. It is tilted, it is unreliable, it is everything that it should not be, because there's an imposter on the ballot paper. Now, you've told us there was an imposter. He was an imposter. How can he not have been an imposter in 2021? And then B, the very fact that the court allowed it does not make it right. So if they are saying that we are responsible for the illegality that happened in 2021, they are also responsible to correct that illegality. They should correct that illegality. They can't say he was eligible, now he's not. That is confusing everyone. They can't say because there was a subsisting judgment and it remains in force until it is vacated. What happened to Bowman Lusambo's case? There was a judgment that was saying that they were eligible. What did ECZ do? They refused to accept the nominations. Malanji, it was the same. These elections that are going on in Kawambwa, I will tell you that there's a stay that is subsisting saying you will not hold those elections from the High Court. They have gone ahead to hold those elections. The council chairperson elections that went on in Kawambwa, there is a stay which still has not been discharged. But they still went ahead and held that election. And they are telling us no matter how defective an order is, it should be followed. Of course, that is the law. What about these issues? Why are you particular order, which is a legal position, and I agree with that particular position, but you're saying that we did that, and the question is, what is the effect of that illegality or of that order on the whole election? They've told us he was not eligible, so he should not be eligible in 2016. They should not tell us that he was eligible then and will not be eligible in 2026. But that's what they've told us. But out of the magnanimity of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, he says, okay, now we are switching to Plan B. And that is where we are.
Tell us about this Plan B, since you and your clients do not agree with the judgment that was passed. What next?
What next? What next is that we will switch to Plan B. And what Plan B is will be seen as it unfolds. It will be seen as it unfolds because the options that have been opened up by this particular judgment are vast. And all the options are on the table. All the options will be explored. But at the end of it all, come 2026, that election of 2026, it is an election that is going to ensure that the United National, the party, the UPND, the United Party for National Development, will no longer be in power. They will no longer be in power, not because of the ingenuity of the opposition, but because they have failed to deliver on their promises. They promised that the cost of milling meal would come down. They said you buy a bag of milling meal at 50 kwacha. What is it at now? Well, they said you will buy fuel at 12 kwacha. How much is it now? They said you will buy fertilizers at 300 kwacha, 250 kwacha. How much is fertilizer now? I was just buying fertilizers. It's about 1,150 for a D-compound bag of fertilizer, which they promised was going to come down to 250. They had promised that they will get rid of load shedding. And even when they came into power, because of the work that was done by Patriotic Front, They came and claimed the glory to say, we have ended load shedding. Now we have the mother of all load sheddings that is going on in the country. And they have no answers to that. They promised that they were going to be corrupt-free. And this time around, the president is happy that the corruption that is going on in his government has been exposed, and he will deal with those that are involved in it decisively. How many times has corruption been exposed in his government? How many times has abuse of office been exposed in his government, and he's done nothing about it? A very clear example. Look at Minister Kapala when he was Minister of Energy. Those letters he was writing, cancelling tenders, is that the role of a minister? Wasn't that matter reported to the Anti-Corruption Commission? What have they done about it? Nothing. That is a candidate for abuse of authority of office. That is a candidate for corruption, because that in itself is corruption. When you do what you are not empowered to do, you are corrupting the power that you have been given, and you are putting yourself in a position where the law says you should not be. And what should happen to you? The president has not paid attention to that. Look at the many scandals that have been reviewed over the transactions that have been going on, where you find a company that was incorporated this year in February has been given a road in Western Province to deal with. What do you make of that? What do you make of that? And nothing is being done. It is for that reason that we think that every threat that is coming from the opposition, they want to thwart. Anything that opposes or that challenges their continued stay in power, they want to thwart, because to leave power in 2026 may be disastrous for them, because there are many corrupt issues that have surfaced. Issues that have arisen, the 156 ambulances, out of 156 ambulances, only 11 have been delivered, 145 have not been delivered, and the person that they contracted has since run away. And they paid the full price. They paid for the 156, only 11 have been delivered. What are they saying about that? Isn't that all the corruption that they should be saying they'll deal with? Isn't that the corruption that they said they are bored? Look at how long they ran away. They ran with the issue of the fire trucks, the 40 fire trucks. They ran with that issue for a very long time. Now we're talking about 145 ambulances that were bought, paid for, and not delivered. We're also talking about medicines in hospitals that are not there when they should be there. The corruption that has gone on in the Ministry of Health. The corruption that has gone on to the extent where a permanent secretary who has an interest in a company gives himself a contract, and that nothing has happened, at least not yet. Nothing has happened as regards that. We have seen scandals where the Americans now, the European Union are saying, we're not going to give you monies for these social programs. Meaning that they have noticed that there's abuse in your government. The donors have realized there's abuse in your government. And you just can't say that I am glad that the audit has showed that there's abuse in my office and I'll deal with it decisively. You don't do that. You just deal with it decisively. Let your actions say that you have dealt with it decisively, instead of going and dealing with it by way of PR to say we will deal with it decisively. People want you to deal with it decisively, because that money was for the poor. That money was for social cash transfer. The abuse or the stealing of that money means you have stolen from the poor. What punishment goes to a person who steals from the poor? You have, but you steal from someone who doesn't even have. That is the amount of corruption that we're seeing in this government. We're seeing all that. And unless and until we are able to say, why do we choose leaders? And come to a conclusion that we choose leaders to save our interests, and gauge that against whether or not this government has served the interests of the Zambians, you come to an inescapable no for an answer. Because all these things that I've outlined, are showing that they had no intention whatsoever to serve the interest of Zambians. Anything is meant for self-gratification. And I think it is important to call a spade for what it is. And I think the conclusion that we must come to as Zambians right now is that the president that we have is a liar. We have so much evidence of the lies that he has told, but we have chosen to keep quiet. I don't know whether we are quiet by visitation of God, or God has told us to be quiet, or maybe we are quiet by malice, is what is called being silent by malice or visitation of God as legal terminologies. But maybe we are quiet because we are saying, wait and see. We have our time, and we will only speak once in 5 years. We will tell you. But maybe, just maybe, it may not even take the 5 years. Because to express oneself, one needs to have the medium of expression. But what is happening now? Every person that has expressed themselves against the ills that are going on in government, they've been charged with either seditious practices, use of insulting language, these cyber crimes issues. There have been all those issues that have met the desire for people to express themselves. Maybe if this government allowed people to express themselves, they would know what's wrong. If you get home and your child is hungry, you don't know whether the child has eaten or not, when you know you left food at home. But because of the threats that possibly the mother, the maid, or any person is issuing on them, they keep telling you, we've eaten. You see them deteriorating, notwithstanding that there may be food in the house, and that food is not being given to them. It's being eaten by someone else. That is an example that I can give of the carelessness.
The UPND, on the other hand, boasts of so much that they have done for the country. They speak about the debt restructuring, they speak about free education, they speak about the increase of constituency development fund, they speak about bringing back life on the copper belt, the mines.
Do you believe that?
Well,
by your hesitation alone, by your hesitation alone, I can tell. By your hesitation alone, I can tell
that at least I know that CDF has been increased from 1.6
but
to now 30.
Tell me, despite CDF having been increased, whom have you heard say that it has achieved its intended purpose as they projected it? Nobody. What they have done with CDF, let me tell you, this is what happens. If you have 5 children in the house, and you say, okay, you 5 children, I will be giving you 10 kwacha each. And this 10 kwacha each, you will use it however you want, or you use it for socks, you use it for sweets and all. Then you come back and say, okay, what I'm going to do is, I'll go to the mother. Instead of giving the children 5 kwacha each, what I will do is, I will give you 50 kwacha. When I give you this 50 kwacha, I want you to use it on the 5 children. That is what they did with CDF. What do I mean? A constituency would get the Constituency Development Fund of about 1.6, 1.2 million kwacha. Schools would be funded separately, not from the CDF. Hospitals would receive grants, not from the CDF. Now what they have done is gotten all these fundings that are supposed to be going to the schools, that are supposed to be going to the hospitals, that are supposed to be going to other programs within a district, lump them up and say we'll constitute these into CDF. Now when they give you the CDF, they tell you, okay, because we have given you the CDF, part of this money you take to the school, part of this money you take to the hospital, part of this money you use to build roads. It looks like a very big figure, but it is just a consolidated figure from all the other places that this money was going to. But how is this money being used? You will notice, and if you go around and audit what exactly has been happening. I'm looking forward to the Auditor General's report as regards the CDFs. You will notice that there's a lot of abuse that has led to even the UPND becoming unpopular in the constituencies, because they have made cooperatives that constitutes of people that don't even know they're part of the cooperative, but mainly a few that belong to the UPND, and they're the ones that are being given contracts for projects. They will give them projects to deal or to build a 3-classroom block, and that is going to UPND cadres. And these UPND cadres, you know, human beings are greedy by nature. When they get it, they do not share with those, the membership of the UPND, those that they're saying they're carrying along with them. And no one is feeling the effect of that money. It is only a select few. As a matter of fact, I can tell you here now that CDF has made UPND much more unpopular in the constituencies than the picture that they want to portray, that it is bringing glory to them. As a matter of fact, it is taking away all that glory, because a number of people that are complaining in constituencies are more than the people that are enjoying that particular CDF.
On the contrary, I personally have been to constituencies doing documentaries on CDF, and I think that people, especially in rural constituencies, are appreciating the works that CDF is doing.
Who availed the persons that you interviewed to you?
No, it's
because
it's
you could say it's random, but they could be random from a selected number that have been given to you. But if you're going to carry out an independent survey, you will discover that it has done more harm than good. It is something that we have to look at critically. It is something that we need to consider how best it can be done. The CDF policy needs to be refined to ensure that the intended beneficiaries of those monies benefit. The intended infrastructure is built. The standard of that infrastructure is also there. That is very important. That is very important. The numbers look good, but in any case, which constituency received all those monies that were laid? In your survey, in your going to those constituencies, did they tell you that we actually received everything that they said we should receive? I can bet you to the last cent that the answer is no. Even yourself, who says you went to interview, if you ask them if they received all the allocation that was given to them, they probably didn't. For some time now, government has been paying the civil servants net. By payment of net, what I mean is, they will pay you what you're supposed to get, yes. But they will not pay NIMA, they will not pay ZRA, they will not pay NAPSA. If you got Kalova from a microfilm, they will not pay that microfilm because they are strapped for cash.
They claim that they inherited empty coffers from the Patriotic Front.
You see, you can't be spending from empty coffers. You can't be spending from empty coffers. And they are not magicians to create money. So what they've been spending could not have been coming from empty coffers. See, it is very important to be truthful in your approach. When they came in, they exaggerated the debt. They thought the debt was much more than what it actually was. They thought it was in $27 billion, and only to find that it was by far much less. And when this period that they have been in government, they have borrowed much more in the 3 years than we did when we were there for 3 years. On average, we were borrowing about 1.2 billion
But
Yes.
still you defaulted.
The default could have been there. The default could have been there, but have they rectified that? No, they have not. Restructuring debts, they have simply said, we'll start paying later. That's all they have said. But we were able to deal with that money, and we are able to say, okay, listen, the money that we borrowed, we built this flyover bridge, we built that road, there are a lot of things, we built that hospital. The president was in my constituency. The constituency, I was a member of parliament, and he was commissioning a hospital. I can bet you that he doesn't know how that hospital was built. He found the works in progress and the works finished. There is nothing that the UPND did over that hospital. They were not there during the negotiations for that hospital. They found projects ongoing. Look at what was said by the president as regards the Kazungula Bridge. So that reason that I'm saying that we have a liar for a president, and we must call him out for what he is. We have a liar for a president, and only and unless he comes out open and says, listen, perhaps I was wrong as to how I perceived governance. Governance is obviously difficult. I thought I would run this the way I used to run my private practice. I thought I was in control of certain variables. I do not have control of those variables. And as such, I cannot control the dollar to make sure that from 10 hours, when you swear me in, by 14 hours it will be different. I can't do that. Please bear with me. I never understood the intricacies of governance. But no, his pride won't let him do that. His pride won't let him admit that the cost of fertilizer is high. His pride won't let him admit that this so-called farmer input support program that he inherited, which was robust and responding to people's needs, he has crumbled it. It's on its knees. During the time Patriotic Front was in government, people used to have 4 bags of fertilizers with seed, and if you're going to grow legumes as well, and you're given legumes, there would be added 2 more bags of fertilizers, meaning that a total would be up to 6 bags of fertilizers. By August, farmers would have that fertilizer in their homes. Today, as I'm speaking to you, there's probably somewhere where they're still waiting for fertilizer. There's somewhere where they're sharing that fertilizer in medas. There has been zero success in terms of farmer input support program from the UPND. Zero success when it comes to that. They have told us it is climate change. What did they say about climate change when PF was in government? They said it was not about climate change. It was poor leadership. And he told us the moment he was sworn in that he was taking his time to choose his leadership because he was being meticulous, he was being methodical, and that we're going to see the kind of leadership that was going to put in place. He put that kind of leadership, and what is it? Dismal. They have failed to deliver. He told us Dubai has got no rains, and yet they have power 24/7. Why can't the PF do that? Here we are, with good amount of rains, or with some rains, and we have failed, or at least he has failed, to ensure that we have electricity the whole time. The time the Patriotic Front was in power, whereas the government was working on several projects to ensure that we increase the megawatts of electricity that was to come to our homes. We also looked at the issue of nuclear energy. We set up a place, a research center, where we're going to deal with nuclear energy. We related very well with Russia and got assistance from Russia in that regard to set up that institute. We also trained over 100 students in nuclear energy to be able to come, deal with the research. We have uranium in this country, possibly set up a nuclear power plant for purposes of ensuring that there's energy, because with every kind of development that you need to bring into the country, production requires power. You can't say we're going to grow the economy without power. And we were looking at that. What did they do the moment they came in? They shut down the program. over the over 100 graduates are not employed anywhere in Zambia. We have donated them to countries that never even invested in these people. That is problematic.
Let's get back to the mining sector. You and I agree that at one point the mining sector was on its knees. And even now have brought back life to the mines. The watering of Shaft 29, the opening of Kasense in Solwezi, and various other mines.
That is very, very, very interesting. The mining story is another lie. If you called President Hakainde Hichilema, put him in this seat and asked him, the dewatering of Shaft 29, how long is it going to take? If he's truthful, he will tell you that it will not take anything less than 3 years. Just dewatering. What is the cost of that dewatering? If he tells you what the cost is going to be. See, we can't afford to put up publicity stunts that are affecting the livelihoods of our people. You can't afford to do that. And that is exactly what is happening. You are saying that the mining sector has been revamped. What have they done to KCM? KCM was an ICU when we were there because of the sort of rogue investor that it had. And it's for that reason that a liquidator was appointed. At the time of the appointment of the liquidator, there were gains and improvements in KCM. The deal that you may have seen, even over KCM, when that takeover was done, President Hakainde Hichilema took to the cameras and said, it's actually long overdue that you're taking over this mine from this guy. It is long overdue because Zambians are capable of doing these things. He said a lot of things. He commended the step that government took. When he came into power, not once, not twice, 3 times he said, we are not giving back KCM to Vedanta. He said that. Then the last time he comes, I think it's consistent with the judgment that we've gotten from the court, where a number of times they say yes, then the last time they say no. President Hakainde Hichilema has consistently said no, they're not coming back. It's a lie, it's a lie. Then he goes into parliament and he says, I am proud to announce that Vedanta is taking over KCM, is coming back to KCM. Shouldn't you apologize for the lies that you told us at least? Okay, tell us you were wrong. Tell us what has changed in between. What is new about this old investor that is so appealing that you're willing to give them back the money? Tell us, or at least comfort us, that there has not been any corrupt practices in the background that could have influenced or impacted the decision that you made. Tell us it's not that. Otherwise, we'll conclude that it is that, because consistently you have told us that they are not coming back. What has changed? Nothing. The Mopani saga, we were told people that are coming from Dubai, this company is coming from Dubai. What do we have now? We have Delta. Who are the shareholders in Delta? It's local people we know. What has happened to that investment that was supposed to come? You told us they are bringing in so much money. Why is it that they are borrowing from our banks? Do you understand that they are borrowing from our banks means that people like you and me will not be able to access that finance from the bank, because the bank would rather lend to those people than lend you and me. If you and me are going to get these loans from the banks, it means that we have to pay a higher interest, because they're saying we've got a better place to take our money, not you. So if you want our money, it will cost you more to get our money. What has that resulted in? The economic downfall that we're experiencing now. Things are not good in this country. People are strapped for cash. There's no one who has money. The only people that have money are those that are in government. And the reason is because they have those monies because of a myriad of scandals that we keep hearing have been going on in government, unabated. That is the problem that we have in this country. So if you tell me there's any success story as regards the mines, zero. There's no success story. As regards Kasanseli mine, all that is corruption. You will see that it's littered with corruption. There are certain individuals that are there who should not be there. If that mine is going to earn this country any money, we need to relook it, take away that partisan interest, stop throwing cadres into those businesses, and do the right thing. Then we'll realize something from it. The popularity of the UPND on the Copper Belt in Northwestern Province is at an all-time low because they have failed to do what they would do in the mines. What they said is not what is going on there. So if you tell me that there is a success story as regards the mines, maybe you need to go back or go to the Copper Belt and find out what exactly is going on.
As we come towards the end of the program, I want to take you back to the matter of the constitution of the Chief Justice allowing cameras in the courts. For the first time, we saw the judgment of the eligibility of President Kalongo being televised on TV. What do you make of the decision by the Chief Justice to allow cameras in the courts?
I alluded to that earlier, and I think in a country where you're trying to foster transparency, that is a good move. The only thing I have against that particular move is you denied the people of Zambia the ability or an opportunity to observe the proceedings from the start. You have given them the meal. You have not shown them how that meal was cooked. You have not shown them the ingredients that were used in that meal. And as such, they've been left behind. For future cases that are of public interest, it's important that you televise them right from the start through to the very end, so that even when people are going to go there and we are saying, listen, there is a perception of bias as regards this. Look at the way the court is behaving in this particular issue. People are able to say, but we agree with you that there's something wrong with that. I think court proceedings are not a cult. See, we had that case for the gold scandal at the airport. The state came and said, we do not want cameras in this matter because there are issues of national security. That's what the state came and said. What issues of national security were there? Is it because people that were connected to State House were implicated in the matter and charged? Was that an issue of national security? Should we say when certain people are charged, then proceedings in court have to be dealt with as though it's a cult? And when it is something that is seemingly like the case for that we're talking about, it is easy to harbor a thought that because they knew what the outcome was going to be, they said, let us televise this so that each and every Zambian knows. Let us apply to televise this so that each and every Zambian knows what exactly is going to happen. And I think that the UPND possibly did not get the response that they expected to get. They probably expected that people would celebrate that action, and they didn't get to that point. It is for that reason, I surmise, that the gentleman, my very good friend, Cornelius Muitwa, in no time took to the microphones and the cameras to explain a judgment of the court. Why does he need to explain a judgment of the court? Since when did a spokesperson of the government take to the podium to go and explain a judgment of the court? If he has to explain it, then he is thinking there's probably something wrong with it. And I agree with him. There's some reasoning that is wrong. There are some dots that are not connecting in the judgment. which have to be explained to the people. Because people in Malambo, people in Kanda Square, people in Karingaringa are asking the same question. Why was he eligible in 2021 and is not eligible for 2026? Those are questions that will possibly be answered in future, since the court says the door is open. You can go in for the same case until you get a different result.
The Patriotic Front seem to have a leadership crisis. I say so because you seem to be pushing President Edgar Chagwa to be the leader of this political party, even when he had resigned from his position as party president. We've seen him come back again. Is it that there are no other people that can lead this political party?
To start with, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Patriotic Front Party, but I am glad that you realize that the Patriotic Front Party is the one that is being led by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. I'm glad that you realize that position.
And the factions in the Patriotic Front.
No. I'm glad that you don't think there are factions in the Patriotic Front Party, and I agree with you, because the party, the Patriotic Front Party, is led by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. The shenanigans that went on, there is no person who does not know why the other people are claiming to be Patriotic Front Party, where this one says I'm president, the other one overthrows the other, the registrar of society is compromised, there are changes there, all that. It doesn't bother us at all, because we know where the people are, and the people are with President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. And what brought President Edgar Chagwa Lungu is this desire to dissipate the very values that we stand on as a country of democracy, free expression, all those issues. You don't want to kill the opposition in any democracy, because the opposition makes you work hard. The opposition keeps you on your toes. And the moment you want to kill the opposition for purposes of perpetuating your stay in power, that makes you totalitarian, that makes you a dictator, and I'm afraid that we are slowly getting to that. We are slowly getting to a phase where the dictatorial tendencies of President Hakainde Hichilema are being made manifest each and every day. And we will not allow PF to die. We will not allow democracy to die. We will not allow what our forefathers fought for this country to just go like that because of someone who should be in office for 5 years or 10 years. No. We will not sacrifice the future generations for the expediency of the current exigencies. We will not do that. We will protect to the core, with the very last drop of blood, the right for people to express themselves, the right for people to decide who should lead them. You can't choose who your opponent should be in an election. And that is what is going on. You want to choose who you are going to stand against in 2026. This is a free market of ideas. Let people express themselves. Don't charge them with seditious practices. Don't charge them with use of insulting language. Don't bring tribalism only when it relates to the people that you associate with. When someone talks of other people that come from other regions, it's not tribalism. Don't do that. Let's protect our nation. It is for that reason that Dr. Kaunda kept saying, one Zambia, one nation. Can that be inculcated in our children? Can politicians not be responsible for the division of this country? Can President Hakainde Hichilema make sure that the national unity that we've so far fought for is kept? He has shown so far that he's incapable of doing that. But we urge him to try. And maybe, just maybe, he may realize that we are indeed one Zambia, one nation.
As we come to the end of this interview, Senior Counsel, do we see President Edgar Lungu, are we going to see President Edgar Lungu on the ballot in 2026?
Do you want to see him on the ballot in 2026?
I'm asking if I'm going to see, because for now, the Constitutional Court has told us that he is not eligible. Let's
deal with it this way. The Constitutional Court has said he was eligible in 2021. They have also said he's not eligible in 2026. It is the Constitutional Court that has changed its position. What guarantees you that they will not change their position again? With that door that they've opened, where they're capable of changing their positions, I will tell you that nature is not closed. With that, I'll end that. We will pursue Plan B to its very end until there's true freedom in this country. And that freedom is coming in 2026 when UPND is no longer in government.
Do we see President Edgar Lungu on the ballot in 2026?
Nature is not closed.
Council, thank you very much for making it to the hard work. We really do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
We have been talking to Senior Counsel Makebi Zulu, who is a constitutional lawyer. Of course, we were discussing issues to do with the judgment that was passed on Tuesday as regards President Edgar Lungu's eligibility to stand for the 2026 and a future election. So that note, we come to the end of today's hard work.